Hey friends, welcome back to Hot Air with me, Joshua Robert. This is the podcast where we talk about the things that shape us, our bodies, our minds, our relationships, and sometimes the weird, uncomfortable, or unexpected stuff that comes with all of that. Since we're officially in the new year, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I've said it multiple times. It is 2026 now. I wanted to talk a little bit about health and wellness from the physical standpoint and New Year's resolutions. You know that there's so much pressure to suddenly become a brand new person overnight, to eat better, to work out harder, to fix everything all at once, and then quietly abandon it by February. So today, I wanted to bring on two very important people who live in the health and wellness space, but approach it in a way that feels a bit more grounded and realistic and human and not extreme or fear-based. So today, I'm joined by Stefania and Sam, the owners of OPTML Health here in San Diego. They've built a wellness space that focuses on sustainability, longevity, and actually listening to your body, which feels especially refreshing in a world full of wellness noise, especially at this time of year. And this is going to be a two-parter episode. So in this first part of our conversation, we're going to talk about how they personally feel about New Year's resolutions, what goals that they set for themselves in 2025 and how they did or did not accomplish them, and then goals heading into 2026 and how they own their experiences and how their own experiences shape the way that they work with their clients. We'll also dive into Stefania's approach to small group training and personal training and why smarter, not harder, matters more than ever, and also Sam's background, his education, and philosophy when it comes to chiropractic care and the nervous system. This episode is really about reframing why New Year, New Me can be a little bit stressful and what that can look like, not as punishment or pressure, but as curiosity, intention, and long-term care. So whether you're someone who loves setting goals, or hates resolutions, or is just trying to feel a little bit better and a little bit more confident in your body, this conversation is for you. So before we do, make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok at _hotairpod. Head on over to my website, hotairwithjoshuarobert.com, to shop my merch, like my cute shirt I'm wearing today and my hot air mug that I'm constantly hydrating out of. You can submit your listener stories, topic suggestions, or even comments on recent episodes there. And without further ado, let's hit it. Stop talking, Josh. What do I think this is? My own podcast? Get a grip.
You just love your voice, as do we all, which is why you have a podcast.
Which is so funny because I used to hate it, but now I'm like, I'll just put my podcast on to fall asleep, talk myself to sleep. No, I don't actually do that. I'm kidding. Oh no, but your mic is muted now, Steph.
Okay, hi.
We'll insert a laugh track there for my joke about me sleeping with my voice because we did very much laughing. I'm just kidding. Stefania, welcome back to Hot Air, and Sam, welcome to
Thank you for
Hot Air. It's a joy and an honor and a pleasure. This is actually the first interview that I haven't been nervous for because I know you guys, and so I'm just like, it's fine if I say or do something stupid. But we're going to remain relatively professional. But before we get into my questions, if anybody wants to know about Stefania, we did an entire episode 5, so they can go back and listen to your wonderful story. And this is episode 75. So 70 episodes later, here we are back at it. But let's talk about Sam, about who you are, where you're from, your background, all the good things that you feel people need to know.
I appreciate that. Let's see. Starting from the beginning, I'm from Maine. I grew up in a really small town, and, due to all that coldness in Maine, I told my parents that I'd be happy to stay in state for undergrad, but I will be seeking a warmer climate when it comes to grad school. And that led me to go to Florida. Originally, I was going to do some physical therapy. That's what I thought I wanted to do. Had a lot of sports injuries as a kid. As I find most therapists experience that. They have some type of personal injuries that get them into those healing fields. And I had a lot of injuries. I broke 10 bones in 2 years. So I was pretty accustomed to kind of that process. And someone had mentioned to me, you should be a physical therapist. You like sports, you've been injured, all this stuff. It sounded good to me. And fast forward to undergrad, I finished up my senior year. We did a capstone class, and you essentially would shadow someone for 300 hours, the career you wanted to go into. Probably around hour 8, I knew I was not going to continue in this physical therapy profession. And I'm a huge everything happens for a reason believer. And in that moment, the person I was shadowing was really nice. She had a great practice, pretty much fully booked every day. But ultimately, they were doing the same couple of things, and it wasn't that progressive when it came to healthcare in the sense of let's really get you to your best, not just let's deal with this small injury. They also did a lot of workers' comp, and a lot of these people were more than happy to not return to work. So, for whatever reason,
Right.
I was exposed to that scenario, and it came up naturally in conversation. And I was kind of feeling like I was painted in a corner a little bit. I was sitting here senior year thinking I'm going to go into this field, and then I get more exposure to it, and I really didn't feel like that. And she brought it up and said someone in her class had transferred to chiropractic school. And that kind of set the light off for me that, hey, that sounds a bit more of what I'm looking for, something more hands-on, a bit more interactive, where I could really use my body to help these people. And yeah, I looked into what I needed to go to chiro school. I assumed the prereqs were pretty similar. And it was a very lucked out kind of moment because, as most people know, in undergrad, just selecting all the right courses to fulfill your track is sometimes tricky. Well, on the application form, there was a couple of classes I didn't have, and I was very realistic with knowing my capacity for school. I liked it, but I didn't want to spend a 5th year just to go into 4 more years of school. Well, the admissions called me and said, actually, if you saw down here at the bottom, if you've taken these 5 grad level classes and received an A, it counts for anything you don't have. And miraculously, those were the only 5 extra classes I had ever taken. So I really took that as a sign. And I looked up the schools. Palmer is the original chiropractic school. I decided I want to go to the best one. They have the highest board scores in the nation. And there's 3 campuses, Iowa, Florida, or in the West Coast. So Iowa was an instant no due to climate. And I wanted to stay East Coast, went down to Florida, and had a great experience down there. I learned a ton. And then I came out to California. One of my best friends is a Navy SEAL. He was already out here. We were just kind of catching up. It's like, you know, if you're looking for a place to crash and you want to try working out here, you can stick with me. And for as much as I overthink or put a lot of time into certain things, it just felt right. And I came out here. And ultimately, it's led up to this point where Stefania and I were sending a lot of people back and forth. But we were also seeing a lot of kind of what was missing, at least from my eyes, truthfully, was a space to live out those habits and enact them, rather than telling people, this is what I want you to do on your own. There's a part of that you have to take ownership. I can't control what you put in your mouth or what you put between your ears and how you think. But I can give you a space that is comfortable and relaxing to come into and be in the right environment to actually get healthier. Not only having a physical space for you to be and feel good, but also to meet like-minded people that believe in that. Because I think everyone knows and can draw from their own experience, you are the sum of the people you spend time around, you know? And we want to give a space that creates that for health. And I'm sure that was the short-winded answer you want, but that's what brought me to here.
That was so short-winded. What is your blood type? No,
We did just talk about
that.
No, I love that. Actually, I text my mom all the time, and I'm like, Mom, what is my blood type again? I still don't know. And last time I was like, I promise I'll remember. I have no idea. But speaking of your space, so if anybody is listening and wants the visuals, we are going to lay over some videos of me visiting your space and trying out all your fun amenities. So why don't you, if people want to see that, they can go over to YouTube, and then obviously on Instagram, we'll share some stuff. But why don't you share a bit more about your space and this new endeavor?
So I think Stefania and I, there's a lot of noise in, I would say, the health industry. There's a lot of different things that you can do, all these different things to try, biohacking, this, that. Everyone on Instagram has their thing, right? You're the keto guy or liver king or whatever
Right.
you are. But I really feel it's easy to make a one-size-fits-all and sell something and try to tell everyone that this method of health is the best. And it's not. And everyone's health is individualized. We all have a different blood chemistry. We all have different backgrounds. Our own perception is our reality. No one's lived someone else's life. So that sucks for a business model. You can't just cram it all in and say, hey, you got this, do this. So you need a space, and you need to be able to spend time with people able to get to know them and create those kind of lifestyle habits. But I say all this because you can distill it down to a couple of things that you have to work on, which is how you control your stress, how we recover, how we sleep, how we exercise our body, and then how we deal with any pains that we have so we can actually get back to a baseline and then go forward from there. To kind of simplify that, we really wanted to have the physical aspect for myself. So healing, get rid of your pain, make sure we can function correctly. You got to be able to move and move well and then move a lot. So once I can help you move, we get rid of pain. Stefania can help you strengthen around that and continue to move, but develop a program. It's like, this is how you need to move your body consistently to continue to progress. And then the other aspect of that, helping with the sleep and helping with your stress, is creating this space that we're in right now, which is our sauna cold plunge room. We have 2 different saunas, 5 to 7 person and a 1 to 2 person. We also have cold plunge. So allowing people to come in and detox. Sauna is something I believe heavily in when it comes to our longevity. It's one of the easiest things that we can do to add significant, meaningful years to our life. Sitting and sweating. That is so much easier than going and doing a hard workout or all of these things. And it's not that those parts are not important. But we wanted to give people a gateway into something that's so easy to do, where they can show up, do it, and start to feel those benefits. So to answer your question, it's the chiropractic aspect, the personal training, and then the sauna cold plunge to help hit all of those things. But something that's really important for us is also building that community. So giving you an opportunity to be around those like-minded people. And Stefania has been leading a strength class 3 days a week. We cap that at 8 people, so you can get that experience of the group environment and meet new people, but still get that individualized attention and not feel like you're in the back of some class where you kind of slack off a little bit. But also for you to forge those friendships and meet other people that can help support those goals outside of you.
It's almost like you did review my notes because I have this broken down in all of your services. So you're just in my mind. I love that. So before we touch on all of those services, because this is coming out in January and I've been doing a lot of kind of New Year themed episodes, not necessarily New Year, new me, but I'm curious if you guys do New Year's resolutions, if not, no, or how you feel about that, because in the industry you're in, you probably see that all the time.
Yeah, I love New Year's resolutions for a couple of reasons. And I also, at the same time, understand how they can be totally overwhelming and how people might fall off track with them. So I personally find January a very refreshing season. I love a fresh, clean slate. I do feel like January, February, and March, there's not a whole ton of holidays to hold you back. People aren't traveling as much. If you look at like a school schedule, a lot of clients I've had throughout the years, these are really great 3 months to buckle down, which provides a really great leeway for the rest of the year. So I personally think New Year's resolutions are a great idea. Where I think people kind of go astray is either picking too much too fast that they can't sustain, or they're just not realistic with their tracking and then they fall off pretty quick. So I think it's never a bad time to start a goal. You could start a goal in October, although I do find that to be a little bit more challenging because everyone sees October as Halloween, candy, treats like that. And then we're going into Thanksgiving, well, here in America at least, and then into the Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's and beyond, right? So I personally find January a great clean slate month. I find that a lot of people also follow even a dry January. Maybe they're not drinking alcohol in January. So all of that to say, I think it's a great time to start something, test the waters, and see if you can sustain that New Year's resolution for the 3 months. But if you fall off, it's okay to take it back, tone it down, tweak it a little bit to follow for the rest of the year. So personally, last year, I had a couple of resolutions and I fully completed them, and I am so thrilled about it that I would love to help anybody out there who does have New Year's resolutions as well. For myself, I completely removed alcohol from my life, which I know is something that you've done in the past, Josh. So you were an inspiration for that for me as well. I started running. That's long over, but you did at one point, which is not easy. And
I did
even
do it.
a sustained break, I think it's really helpful for your organs to, have complete cell turnover and realistically get a new organ, if you will. And then I started running. So my goal, I have never been a runner. That was a big goal for me. And I chose to run for 6 miles a week. So the idea was I wanted to start incorporating cardio into my life again after, years and years of teaching and over exercising, I took like 2 years off of any type of intense cardio. I just wasn't having it. So the goal was to add cardio back in for an hour a week. And so I could break that up into, 1 mile every day. I could have done 6 miles all at once, or I could do 2 3s, 3 2s, whatever. This was one I was really nervous I was going to fall off track with. But lo and behold, I finished 312 miles for the entire year of 2025. And then my last one was trying to get my step counts up. In 2024, I did 8,300 steps per day on average for the year. And my goal was to just add 1,000 steps to that count. But I also think because of the increased running, that step count was pretty easy to achieve. So right at the end of the final quarter of the year, if you will, I started to notice these trends. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I could even up the ante here and get my annual average up to 10K? So that's what I did. So my month of December was like an average of 14,000 steps a day. So I did have to give it a little bit of extra attention and time. But I felt like those 3 New Year's resolutions really like developed me and helped me grow not only as a person but as a trainer and as a coach to help other people see through their goals, track their goals, and achieve. So I love a New Year's resolution.
What about you, Sam?
I do like them as well, and I'll give you my take. I think what Stefania was maybe getting to, and some of the negative, and obviously we live in this health wellness type of space. So, people do like a new year, a clean slate, and it's like this year is going to be different. And that's great. We come in with a lot of motivation, and we want to make changes. But I think what we do see a lot is people overestimate that change, or you're going to go from zero runner to like I'm going to do a marathon this year. I'm not saying that's a negative, but it's a big jump. We could become a casual runner first. So the way I look at New Year's resolutions, and I think it's fine. I am of support of them. I'll say that. But the way I look at it personally is what is a new habit that I can add to my life that I'm going to continue to do? Because my goal by the end of my life would be to become the best version of myself that I can. And rather than me feeling like I'm necessarily maybe tacking or going in different directions year after year, I want to continually stack onto those habits. And I find that to be more rewarding because you're creating much greater changes in yourself over time. You're still getting that benefit, like that's awesome, I did that this year. But for instance, for myself, similar to Stefania, I've done big stretches of cutting out alcohol. But what I told myself last year was vacation and celebration would be the only time I would have alcohol. So it just became like a rule. Living in San Diego, it's really easy to spend your time eating and drinking. And we're big foodies, so it's by making that a rule, instead of setting up networking or business meetings, hey, let's meet at a happy hour, let's do this. You actively make it something that's not that. Hey, let's go to the driving range, let's go for a walk. Hey, why don't you come in and sauna cold plunge? We're going to naturally do something more active. And if that's a preset in my mind and we're a little bit bored, we're going to go do something fun and active too, instead of, hey, we're kind of bored. Let's go sit somewhere, put some poison in ourselves, reduce our intellectual ability a little bit, and that'll be fun. I'm making light of it. But so that was one example. Another one for me is I use a brain training app. It's called Impulse, and I wanted to challenge myself to do it every single day. I did not. I missed a couple. And honestly, the first couple I missed, it was super annoying. And it wasn't my fault. It was the tracking of the app. Like I completed the training, but I didn't hit finish. So it doesn't count for the day. And you would lose your streak. And I probably started the year with like 80 or 90 in a row. And then I was annoyed because you're like, well, I can't do it now because it messed up. But that was a simple decision of like, okay, we missed one. Does that mean we're throwing it out? Or are we just going to deal with a little bit of annoyance of the app? I did message them. They did make an update and they changed it. So that was cool. But at the end of the year, I think I'm on a 150-day streak now. So that is something that is a massive change in my life. No, but it's a small discipline that I prove I could stick to every single morning, that I could complete it. Do I believe in what it does? Yeah, there's some exercise for your brain so that I can continue to operate and utilize my brain. And that you don't use it, you lose it. It's true for every part of you. So continuing to fire those pathways and expand your learning a bit. I've actually got better at a lot of the skills within the training and the games. So all that to say, can we find something that we can maybe add on and look at it that way? Atomic Habits is a great book by James Clear. I kind of avoided the book for a long time. So, oh, it's easy to make a habit. But he does a really good job of working those backwards and helping people start from a really small spot. It's like, hey, let's just start with this. Can we do this? So I think that's how I view it, is let's find something that we can continue to add on to, and grow. So overall, the resolutions are great. Let's just keep them pointed towards our overall goal as well.
Love that. Whenever I have a moment like that where I fall off track, I hear Stefania's voice in my head from our first episode when you said like zoom out. Like I've said that so many times on this podcast now, and to myself when I'm like, because I try to make my bed every day, for example. But like if there's a day I come home, I'm like, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
I didn't make the bed. Like normally I would be like, you idiot, your bed isn't made. But I just go like, okay, but every other day for the whole entire year, you made your bed. So like I love that phrase that you taught me, to zoom out, look at the bigger picture of things, and like take note of how many times you've done it rather than not.
I think that's
done
a
it.
great point
So
because
you instilled some
I love
wisdom.
that. I'm so happy to hear that that stuck with you, and it's something that
Yes.
I often think about too. I recently, from one of your other guests, Aram, he recently posted the difference between someone who's fit and disciplined and someone who continually has to restart and make waves of progress and yo-yo all the things, right? The difference is if someone who's disciplined falls off track, they get back on track the next day. Someone who's not, who doesn't hold that same consistency discipline, might take 2 weeks off and then really feel like super far behind and it's overwhelming. Just do what you can the very next day, one little step towards whatever that big goal is that you have. So yeah, the zoom out perspective is nice.
Yes.
I think what I was getting at, I think if you incorporate the zoom out, like, who do I want to be at the end of my life? So what could I add this year if I got a little better at that, and I can make that consistent? Like, okay, I'm going to run 3 times a week and get consistent at that. And probably by the end of the year, or as you go through that, you're like, I'm doing pretty good. And maybe you decide you want to do 4 days, or maybe you're tracking the time, you want to go a faster time or more distance. But now that you've made that a habit, then we can go further. Okay, now I have my 3 days, that's locked in. I don't even have to think about that. That's a discipline. I've created this neural pathway that is habit for me. I'm not even thinking about it. What can I add to it? So now on these 2 other days, I'm going to add the strength class, or I'm going to swim, or whatever it is for your health thing that you want to add. But just an example of that, zoom out and start with something small, because when you look at it from the zoomed out, you're going to see that it's worth the time to build that very strong foundation so you can go as far as you want, instead of kind of piecemealing it and try to go fast and just maybe get a result and didn't really build the habit to support it. Because realistically, like Stefania is saying, the discipline is what makes the big difference. And the noise that I talk about in the health industry is, I just want this result. What's the fastest way to get it? There isn't a lack of knowledge of what to do, but people want to continue to search to find the easier way to do, or if I could avoid doing. Because all the people that you see on Instagram that wake up super early or do this or continue to whatever, they don't enjoy it either, or it's not super easy for them. But they have a discipline and they have a bigger why that helps them get up out of bed. Because it's not just about how they feel that day. They know other people depend on them, or that they're showing up for the world to kind of show a light and say, hey, you could do this too. Like, I'm no different. We're all humans.
Stick to your plan, not your mood.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was just going to say, before I get to my actual questions, because I've got a lot, but what you posted on your socials was stick to your plan, not your mood, right?
And
elaborate on that. That's another thing I'm going to take.
Everyone should take that, because I take it with me too, and I need it every single time before I go on a run. I tell Sam, I really don't want to do this right now. And he's like, I know, but you're going to do great, and it's going to be over, and you're going to be one step closer. And I'm like, okay, here we go. It's not that I love running. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm incorporating some cardio into my training, which is going to be great for my brain and my heart at the end of the day. Side note, Josh and I both have worked in the country club setting. We've seen the oldies. We've seen the 80 and the 90-year-old clients. And the difference between the ones who move really well is they've incorporated some of this stuff into their life. And I really try to focus on the longevity of everything I'm doing in life now. And so that cardio component that I was missing for those couple of years after teaching, it was like I couldn't ignore it. I kept seeing all the signs were pointing to me that I need to start doing cardio again. So it's my plan. It's not my desire. It's not my biggest hobby ever, but it is really cool to see yourself get good at something and I've seen my times get better. I've seen my endurance go up. I've seen the gains that I'm making in the gym last, beyond just a look. So you have to have a plan, and you got to stick with the plan, and do not be swayed by your mood, because we will easily sink into the couch, doom scroll, and grab the bag of potato chips.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot better most of the time.
To add on it for the New Year's resolutions is we start and it feels like this fresh chapter, right? Really just a numerical number that we made up changed, and it's just another day, the sun comes up. But people come in with this motivation where we're trying to inspire people through education, because motivation doesn't last. It's going to flame out. You can get pumped up with a music video or whatever it is that gets you excited, but it's hard to like self-perpetuate that every time. And whether that's your having a stronger why, and for me, that why comes from the educational. Why am I doing this thing and continuing to commit to it? And I use the example a lot with supplements, where I might see an ad on Instagram and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how good lion's mane is for your brain. Why would I ever not be taking this? So that's how I kind of feel with our space, and the things that we believe in is strength is really important. It's not just about your aesthetics, but we're talking about how long you're going to live, how long you're going to be actually functional, your bone strength, your heart health, all these things. Same thing with the Sauna cold plunge. But when we continue to educate and someone's like, I'm drawn to do this because I understand the importance, it's so different than motivation. So my goal is really to motivate people through that education, seek us out for a resource and help, put more on our plate in the beginning so we can teach you what to do. But we ultimately want to shift and then become that resource in your life where we can help you push it further.
I think people think about that when they think about retiring, right? We start when we're like in our 20s to plan for saving their money or investing their money into retiring. But like, if you're not going to be
Right.
alive, like you need to counter that with some stuff that's going to
Right.
keep you healthy, keep you moving. But I don't think a lot of people have that long-term picture when it comes to their
That's
physical
a great,
wellness. Financial
yeah, that's a
wellness,
great analogy.
yes,
If you look
but
at it from finances, either your plan could be, I'm just going to kind of run the money into the ground, but at some point I'm going to have this huge lump sum that comes in and that's going to cover everything. Or we can consistently put away a little bit, knowing that compounding interest and how that's going to grow. Well, the same thing happens in our health, that we can hope that if we don't take good care of ourselves and we have bad habits, that when those things become very serious issues, that there's some miracle cure or surgery and we can get rid of it. Or we can choose to do little things every single day where we're not going down that path. And I think that if you can get people to understand it, everyone's going to complain about the cost of healthcare. It's like, great. Well, if we do this every day, you're not going to have to worry about it when we get to the end. And that's, I believe, our goal is to help you live a happier, healthier life and show you how to do it.
So let's talk about your services that you guys offer there. I have many a question. So just to make sure that I'm right, you got your cold
Yes.
plunge and you've got your
Correct.
infrared sauna or different. Okay. And then we've also got obviously chiropractic.
Yeah,
Chiropractic, is that how you say it? Chiropractic. And then
Yes,
personal training.
and strength
right?
classes.
Perfect. And the strength classes. Love that. Okay. So let's start with, let's just talk a little bit about your strength classes, Stefania. And I have a few questions, fitness related, but why don't you talk about your space, what it is you offer? Obviously, you offer one-on-one and what people can expect from
Yeah,
your
so
classes.
I have a beautiful luxury gym space, all brand new equipment. I believe the dimensions of the room are about 25 by 28 feet. We've got some pretty big machines. I've got a cable machine. I've got a Smith machine, a hack squat slash leg press. It does both. A leg extension slash leg curl, a bike, a hip thrust, and a bench, and a bunch of weights, 5 to 50 pounds. And I am not afraid to buy heavier weights if you guys come in needing heavier weights here. We've got some kettlebells and little accessories like that. So I format my classes 3 days a week, and I will be adding to that schedule as the demand picks up. So we do 3 nightly classes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m., and I invite up to 8 people in class. Now, I'm going to insert this here. Anyone listening who would love to stop by for a class, your first one is on me, so don't hold back. Just message me and we can get you plugged into class. And then what's really great is most of those people will stay after and enjoy the recovery services. So the way that I'm formatting that is you could do a drop-in for $45 for the class, or if you join as a member, you get access to all and any of the classes, so unlimited classes, and unlimited on your own time to come and use our recovery room whenever you want. That's $240 a month. So think of it like the most affordable small group privatized training that you can get with a community built in and access to very luxury amenities on a smaller scale than you would find in a big box gym.
So when you do your one-on-one, I'm curious, how would you approach or how do you approach training somebody differently for someone who may be a little bit burned out versus somebody who's like super motivated? Like when people come to you and they're like, "Oh God, I know I have to do this," or someone who's like, "Let's go for it." Do you take a different
Absolutely.
approach or do you just kind of
I would say
take it
I
the
take a
same?
different approach on every single individual, and I feel very fortunate that I've gotten to train so many different types of individuals, all different types of ages and stages, and all different fitness levels. And so I definitely do have those clients that come in and they're super motivated, super fit, collegiate athletes. You know, part of me is I'm kind of like, what am I even helping with? Like, what am I doing here? But they don't want to format their own workouts. They want to make sure they're challenged in certain ways. They want to make sure they're having a well-rounded program. So they get a piece of my brain and my motivation for themselves. And then there's other people that have zero experience in a gym. The equipment doesn't make sense to them. It's like a foreign language. They don't even know how to rack a plate onto a barbell or anything like that. And so they need a lot more like education, and they also need a little bit of hand holding, which is entirely my job. And so I always meet a client where they're at and just try to make it the best for them. So not everyone's going to lift super, super heavy, right? So, but my goal is to get you stronger. So the weight, the frequency, all of these things are going to play a factor into what type of person and what their goals are. Now, I recently had someone ask me a very simple question, but I thought it was such a good point. She told me that she had an ex boyfriend who was a trainer and he hated machines because you should be functionally fit and be able to hold dumbbells and balance and do all these things. And in theory, yeah, that might be true. It might be harder to do something like a not supported overhead press. However, for someone who has sustained injuries, for someone who has, instability in their core, for someone who didn't sleep a ton the night before, for someone who needs that extra support on their neck and back, that's not great advice. So I always start with it depends on the goal and then it depends on the person.
I also love that your training is limited or your
Yes.
group training, group classes to 8 people, because I think a lot of people, if you go to F45, not to shit on these other places, but or Orange Theory or whatever, you are a little bit left to your own devices. I mean, I used to work at both of those places. I'm not the biggest fan. I learned a lot, but I don't love the concept in the sense that you're just kind of thrown in there and you're expected to like work with these sandbags, work with all these random pieces of equipment that some people have never seen before. And there's one or maybe two coaches. So what people I think don't understand about group training is it is essentially, especially when there's only 8 people, you're really
You
getting
are.
personal training in that session. And for, what was it,
Yeah.
240 a month? Is that what you said? And they can come take 3 a week. Like you're already paying for that. If you were doing personal training, it could be 240 for one session, let alone. And because I know you, it's very hands-on. And I think that group training is a really good introduction, especially using your enemies, your, what's that word I'm looking for? Oh, where'd it go? The word left my brain.
Amenities, yes,
Amenities.
absolutely. So I really tried to be
Your
intentional and
enemies.
make this worth it for people because listen, I think at the end of the day, we would
Yeah,
all love to have a privatized, personalized, one-on-one trainer. Who doesn't want that? But it's not totally
truly.
affordable, and I understand where the economy's at. I'm living through it too right now, So I wanted to make something that felt very manageable, bite-sizable for people. And to your point about the 8 per class, what I do is everyone pairs up so only 4 people are doing exercises at a time. So I can personally walk to each 4 people during one set and make corrections. And then those partners will switch. And we might follow a different format sometimes here and there. But the idea is that I have eyes and hands on every client during those classes.
I'm not even gonna edit that out when I said use your enemies. What the fuck was I talking
It
about?
reminded me of Nemo.
Okay, I am
Anemone.
I think I was trying to say something like that. Okay, I'm curious. What's a fitness myth that you wish would die in
Oh man.
2026? Something you're so over, and if you have no answers to some of these, that's fine
No, I
too.
have answers. I'm just afraid what to share.
You can
Okay,
think.
well, I do think that something that is never going to move the needle for people, no matter what they've read, heard, or seen online, is most of the questions I get from people are about what supplements to take. And listen, I take supplements. It's not that I don't think that they're important, but unless you are already following a strength training routine 4 times a week, getting an hour of cardio every week, getting 8 hours of sleep every week, eating enough grams of protein every day, oh, every night, or sorry, with the sleep one, getting
Vampires.
enough protein every day, that little bottle of supplement is going to do nothing for you. So people like to focus
Yeah.
on the wrong things,
Yeah.
I think. A lot of questions I've been getting lately are, oh my God, do I need to get a vibrating plate? I'm like, probably not. Like, you should probably just focus on increasing your step count. That would actually move the needle on some of
Try
your health
walking.
here. You could try walking. Even I've had people who are runners ask me, should I get a vibration plate? And I'm like, you already run. They're like, but my lymphatic system. I'm like, what influencer told you to buy this device now? So I think,
Yeah, I've been seeing that a
yeah, it's a
lot
big trend right
too.
now. And it's not that it's not great. So Sam is someone who actually really believes in vibrating plate for someone who has an injury and wants to get out
Hmm.
of pain and try to some movement because can you explain what
Um,
happens when you're on those?
Basically, when you increase your movement, you're decreasing nociception, so your body's perception of pain. And if I were to do that in one joint, I'm going to reduce that pain. But when I'm able to stand on that vibration plate, every joint in my body is getting some movement. So that is going to help kind of reduce pain. It can be really good for people to stimulate certain areas of the body. But essentially, what Stefania is saying, I use the example like for Usain Bolt, probably it matters which spikes he wears. If you've never run ever, it's like we just need a good pair of running shoes. The best of the best,
Right.
like it's not going to change your time. But someone who's already done all the other things, just like on a car, some certain things for aerodynamics aren't going to matter unless we have like a good engine, good tires, brakes. Like you got to have baseline for everything before we talk about that stuff. Nothing wrong with supplements. It's just that
Right.
we need to, like if you really want to see the benefit of it, we got to do the other stuff too.
So I'd say that,
Right.
and then I would
That makes
say
sense.
sometimes in the Pilates slash bar type of ordeals, people get so sold on the fact that like, oh my gosh, I was shaking, or like I could barely even do it as being like the hardest or the best thing for them. However, I don't agree with that at all. I think when you follow the exercise science, progressive overload and lifting and putting on muscle is really what does it. Just because you're super, super sore and you can't walk the next day doesn't necessarily mean that's the best thing for you. And so I think what happens in our industry is you see people kind of cherry picking information because it's the information that they want. Like maybe they're intimidated to start weightlifting or they don't already have a gym membership. So it's like they're going to hear pieces of advice that pertain to them or that they would like to pertain to them when it's just not the truth.
So, how do you help clients build consistency without turning fitness into punishment? Because we know that we work with people that don't really want to be there, kind of like how you don't necessarily want to run, but you have a goal. So, is there anything that you do to help people get through that without punishment, or something you could suggest for people that may be on their own journey, not working
Yes,
with you?
track what you do. I think that is the best thing that we can do. And we talked about it earlier. I think there's so many similarities between finance and fitness. And I've always felt that way. I even myself at one point in time was really maybe averse to tracking fitness and what I'm eating, thinking I would get a little too obsessive. However, it's not inappropriate to try to track your finances, to try to budget, to try to track your savings, to see how much you have at the end of the month. None of that sounds too aggressive or overdone, right? Or obsessive. But then when you throw out like, oh, track what you eat, track your workouts, write your weights down. For some reason, we get guarded. And I think it's because we know right away we're afraid
Yeah.
that we're going to fall short or we're afraid that we're not going to do the workout. And then there's living proof of it. But when you have that living proof, it's empowering. That's what's going to keep you going. And so one of the things I've been trying to help my mom with is tracking her own steps. And she's had so much fun with it now. And so it's really nice when you can actually track your progress and see your progress. And that kind of goes hand in hand with those New Year's resolutions because I think that what's so beautiful about the start of a season, especially like January, is we've all lived through so many years that we can kind of digest, oh, the first month, the second month, the third, so it's close to 10. We all kind of know, oh, 50% of the year, yeah, that's in the summer. So we're like June, July, right? So when you're like, oh my gosh, for all these months I've been really, really consistent, that's half of the year. I can do this. I'm going to keep going. So I'd say tracking is the best thing that you can do, whether you're working with a coach or you're just doing it on your own. And whether it's in an app, whether it's in your notes, whether you have a big calendar that you literally like to write a physical X on all the days you did your walk or your water or whatever it is that your goals are, tracking is going to give you the answers that you need.
I think as a whole, we're a very unhealthy country.
Yeah.
We know that. North America as a whole, there's so much shame around how much you weigh, what your body fat is. I think that's why a lot of people don't want to track, or when we suggest track your calories, it's not because, oh, you need to be skinny like a Victoria's Secret model, but it's the only way to really ensure, and your macros and all your nutrients and this and that. Like mine was the other side of that. I wanted to gain weight, but the only way for me to do that was to track every single solitary thing that I ate. And I was able to gain those 20 pounds. And over about, I mean, it happened pretty quickly. It was like 5-ish months, intentionally. But without tracking, there doesn't need to be that guilt or like feeling bad, even if it is to lose weight. That's the only way you can actually document, what's going in to your body, documenting your workout so you know what's coming out of it, what kind of energy you're expelling. So I think somehow you can come up with this, how to take the shame out of tracking your stuff, because nobody wants to do it. Everyone's like, oh, really? I have to put everything in there? It's like, well, if you have a goal physically, then yeah, you got to pay attention to every single solitary thing. And then like you said, Sam, it's like building a habit. It takes time. If you forget a day or 2 days, like not a big deal, but you get back on it when you're ready.
The aversion to tracking is this thought that if I start this, I'm going to do it the rest of my life. I had a very similar experience to you. I ran track in college, and it was always weightlifting and getting stronger, but not really adding appreciable mass just because I had so much expenditure of training. So when I got to grad school, I was really committed to get big. And I went from about 160 to a little over 190, strictly from tracking my protein. And you have to do it to get an idea of where your baseline is at so that we can make that change. Do I track my protein every single day? Definitely not. And I didn't after a while because I was able to determine, hey, when I have one of these options for breakfast, this for a snack, this is my lunch, I know I'm going to hit my macros. So you don't need to track for your whole life, but you have to track for a little while. And whether that's a goal to add muscle or we want to make a body composition change, what's very difficult is people don't really have a good idea about what is actually going in. And they're misperceiving that, just like you'd be really surprised when you're like, I sleep this many hours. Like, well, you actually were in bed for this much, took you this much to fall asleep, you weren't really blah, blah, blah. You're like, you slept for that much. Same thing with food is we really misestimate where it's like, I get a good amount of protein or I did eat a lot today. And when we track, it's quite different. So it's one, eye-opening to people because maybe you haven't gone through a class where they're teaching you macros. And I get it, that's like a foreign thing. Not everyone went to school for that. Just because we all eat food, we don't understand the composition or what does what or how different carbs are different, whatever. But it helps you get an idea of a baseline so that someone like us can then coach you from there and make those modifications. And this is where I think, going back to what I said in the beginning, the one size fits all. If you're trying to follow something and you punch into a calculator, this is what you should eat. It probably is, I don't know, it may or may not be that close to accurate. Probably not that close. You need to know some individual things for you.
Yeah.
But I also need to know, like, are you truly getting close to that amount? I've had people before track and then, it is tricky to figure out. I'm like, wow, they were actually pretty accurate and I'm kind of surprised. But 90% of the time, they're pretty off. And as soon as we make those changes, and it's like, what I realized for myself, so many of the days, it's only off by like 15 to 20 grams. So it's that extra of like one protein bar or a shake or something. But so many of your workouts, you did the right workout, you slept enough, you ate all the right foods, but not quite enough to make the change. And if you could learn that, now you're doing all the same stuff, but adding in that one more shake or whatever it is for you. And now you're seeing the change. That's amazing.
Yeah. And to be clear, that 20 pounds that I gained, it was over 4 months, was mostly fat, not muscle, because that's impossible. But it was mostly fat in order to try and do a bulk. So,
Yeah,
just in case anyone's listening and is like, Josh gained 20 pounds of muscle. That's not possible. No, it's not possible.
and one thing to add too is people I think expect results really fast. So our very one of our very first members who has recently signed up has been very consistent. Granted, this is the second week of the year. He came in and he was like, I didn't even lose a pound yet. I'm like, this is a brand new routine. It's been 1 week. What are you talking about? So I always like to
Right.
remind people if you are waiting to see a change, you need to give yourself 3 months. And nobody is above
Yes.
the law of thermodynamics. Okay. So what goes in and how much you burn really matter. And I know some people are really frustrated to hear that because I hear all day long, I eat so healthy. But when you're not tracking, you have no idea the calorie contents that you're eating. And I've read a study, I'll have to find it to send you so you can link it, but where people self tracked what they were eating. And then where scientists double tracked their work and they were off on an average of 1,000 calories a day. And so that makes
Wow.
quite a difference. And so even when we're tracking, we're still not totally
Yeah.
accurate, right? As humans, we make mistakes or we underestimate or whatnot. So that just goes to show if you're not tracking and not paying attention to it at all, there's no way you're eating like you think you are. Yes.
You're way
The other
off.
one I'll
No.
add to,
Do
sorry,
you
I think
guys
the version of tracking.
go
I
ahead?
think the other part I see with people is they don't want to tell you because they don't want to be told to not eat a certain food. But I had a client where she did, track for like a week. All I did was change the order that she ate her foods, and we had a 15-pound difference in the month. I didn't tell her to stop eating anything, but it was the simple changing when we do some of our things, that all these things she was already doing, but change when the walk was, change when the workout was, and change when she had what foods. That was it. It's helpful if you can share that stuff with us and we can figure, make that easier for you. And it isn't always about what not to do.
Yeah. But I do want to get into Sam, more of you and the
Mhm.
chiropractic side of things because I was thinking today, I was like, I've never been ever. I've never been adjusted. And I'm also sitting here, I'm like, oh, I really need to
Save
tighten
it.
my neck, which I'm not going to do
Save
while
it for
you're watching me.
tomorrow.
Um, truly, I'm like, oh, something needs to happen. I've always been scared. Like, I'm just like, oh, they're definitely going to paralyze me. Obviously, you're a professional, you know what you're doing. But the only time I've ever been to the chiropractor was my mom and her best friend used to go to this chiropractor, and I would always go with my mom. I would never get adjusted. Her and her best friend would. And they would only go to him because he was really hot. And I was like 7 years old. And my mom's best friend, Maria, and my mom would go. And then they'd go home and talk about how hot he was. And I would just sit there and watch them get adjusted by, yes, a hot man. So that's all I know about getting adjusted or getting cracked and snacked and whatever. And I also think a lot of people have misunderstandings or think it's something that it is not. So, I mean, most people think it's like
Mhm.
back pain, right? It's just like, oh, it's just about your back. So, A, what are they missing when they're thinking, oh, you're just getting your spine cracked? And what exactly is it that
Besides being
you
hot.
do besides being a hot
Yeah.
chiropractor? Yeah.
It's definitely a loaded question for sure. Going through school,
Yeah.
it's alternative to our norm, right? I think we're raised in a culture. You have pain, you have a problem, you have a sickness. You see the doctor, they give you something, you feel better. And just like Stefania said, in fitness, people perceive getting changes really quick. And in healthcare, we've kind of created this expectation, like get you out of pain as fast as possible, right? Where I think if I zoom out, chiropractic as a profession looks at your body, your obviously skeletal system, and our muscular system, everything that makes up us. Sorry. From there, we assess and see how we move, but it's also to learn what are your eating habits, what are your stress, what's leading to this pain, what are the things that you do every day. Do you do maybe a unilateral activity like golf? You do a sport that only works one side. Yeah, it's an activity, but you're working the same muscles all the time. So identifying what does this person do? How do they go through their day? How do they manage stress? Things like that to ultimately come up with a care plan, but to help get to their true health. Most people are seeking you because they do have a problem. Yes, back pain is one of the biggest reasons. It's actually the number one reason that people seek care in any sense, right? It's the number one reason that people get care, not just a chiropractic, but go to any doctor. Back pain. So, yes, the public perception is much more chiropractic deals with your spine. Realistically, chiropractic deals with your nervous system. Your spinal cord is housed by your spine. That is what it's for, to give us a form, but also to hold our spinal cord. Our spinal cord and our brain are probably the two most important things to our body. It will do whatever it can to preserve those things. And it doesn't matter if that puts you in pain, but it wants to keep you alive, which is most important. When we have what we call subluxations, movements in the spine, that affects the way that our nerves communicate with the rest of our body. So I'm not just sending a signal from my brain to out through my spinal cord to a spinal nerve to make me do something, but also to take in input from the outside world. Wow, that's hot. So when we have subluxations, that messes with that communication. Now, the chiropractic profession, I think, has grown a lot throughout the years. And in the original times, they would call like straight chiropractic is just adjusting the spine. Any problem that you have, you're dealing with it by going to what correlates to that area of the spine, because we can look at what we call dermatomes, so different levels of the spine. Those spinal nerves innervate very specific organs and areas. So if you have a problem in that area, you want to look to the spine to make sure it's kind of like, hey, is it plugged in? Like, we want to make sure you're getting the signal. So in straight chiropractic, they would only look at the spine. And then what they started to call people that are working on other things or adding in other modalities are mixers, where, yeah, you're looking at the spine, but we have to look at other things too. And I would definitely put myself in that category of, I want to do whatever I need to do to help you get better and healthy. When you talk about, I'm nervous about it, and yes, we see videos on TikTok or Instagram, and now the whole trend of just like throwing people against the wall or whatever, these Cairo videos are
Truly, yeah, body
actually a
slamming
lot
them.
funnier than some of the old
It's
ones.
crazy.
But it gives you a perception that like that's all that chiropractic is, right? It's just adjusting. Where there's so many different chiropractors. It's just like if you went to an attorney that did criminal defense and we thought that's all attorneys did. There's so many different types of attorneys, right? Just like there's so many different types of every profession, even regular doctors, general practitioner, brain surgeon, heart surgeon, cancer oncologist, research. There's so many different specialties with everything. Personal trainer. You could work with just females, just males, professional athletes, kids only. So within every profession, there's so many specialties. That's probably one big thing I'd like to just get out there, where people can have a bad experience. You went to a chiropractor, like, that guy's an idiot. You're like, great, I've been to mechanics that sucked. I've been to every profession, good and bad. And there's just give us that same grace that, hey, there's good and bad, or maybe that wasn't great. It does make it hard as a profession, though. If you have a great experience with me and then maybe you have a family member somewhere else in the country, hey, go see a chiropractor. It's probably not going to be exactly what I do. I can guide you to find someone that's the most similar to me. I have friends that have clinics that really just specialize in neurology, and they help people that have incredibly difficult cases that they're not getting better anywhere else. And it's truly incredible. But that is not what I do. And I don't claim to be able to do those things that that person can do. Just like if I was the really paperwork type of attorney, I wouldn't be trying to represent you in that criminal defense case and say that I'm going to help you out, because that's not my skill. So I think kind of bringing it all together, there's not a fear of having to do the adjustments. A lot of patients that I work with, we never adjust. I really focus on soft tissue work and correcting that musculoskeletal system, because at the end of the day, every bone in your body is reactive, not proactive. That little spot in your neck that's hurting, it didn't wake up this morning and screw this, living in the middle, I'm going right, buddy, I'm out of here. Those muscles are tight on that side. Something is creating an imbalance, it's creating a shift. So I wouldn't call myself a doctor if I would just identify that and moved it and said, all right, Josh, we're all better now. It's like a doctor would figure out why this happened. Hey, what do you do every day? It looks like you're right-handed probably, or kind of leaning to the side. Maybe you always look a certain way and we're tight on one side. How can we change that? What exercises, stretches could I give you?
Now I'm looking at myself. I'm like, wait a second.
What can we do? And give you the thought too of like, hey, this is that thing I always do that's leading to this. Easy example, I had some shoulder pain. I kind of realized, hey, when I was driving to my old office, about a half hour in my car each way, and I would put my arm up and rest it like that. It's like, well, if you told me, hey, for an hour a day, I like to just hold my arm up like this, like, no, that's probably creating a little difference between the two when you go to work out and stuff. So identifying things that you do in your life, I think is what's most important. But I guess to summarize, chiropractic is trying to identify the root cause and then fix that through nutrition, movement, soft tissue work, and restoring your body. And why that is such a crazy thing to think, or is not just deemed as the best type of doctor, I don't know. Because truthfully, if we were on a desert island and there was every type of doctor there, I could help you. But everyone else, without their pharmacy and their scalpel and all their tools, can't help you. So, how we coach our mind and the thoughts that we think about how things are going on and how we handle stress is super important. What we put into our mouth is super important because you are what you eat. When you damage your body and it goes to repair, there's not some magic Home Depot that has all these awesome parts. It has what you put in there. So if we're stacking the shelves with donuts, that's what it's rebuilding that tissue with. Or do you want that tissue to be rebuilt with a steak, salmon, something like that? You cannot rip that in half. If I take a donut rip, that's so easy. So when we see people that are injured all the time, pick like professional athletes, they can have a great physique and aesthetic because they work out super hard. But if you eat trash, those are the guys that are hurt all the time. And it's really easy to predict because
Right.
they're rebuilding their tissue with a bad quality. So all that to say, chiropractic look at the root cause, and then we're trying to identify how we can build new habits around this and change it. A lot of this can be done hands-on. The way I treat is a large focus on soft tissue. We also use some other devices as well.
It's much more
Yes.
intricate, much more complicated than I even thought. I think I always was like, oh, you just lay there and then you just
And for depending
off
who
you
you go
go.
to,
But
chiropractors are primary care physicians. We can be your portal of entry into everything else. And I think it's an amazing person to have a part of kind of your health staff.
well, I look forward to
Can't wait.
getting adjusted and seeing what all the
Sure.
hype is about. But I am curious because you mentioned stress, sleep, your daily movement. So obviously, you chat with
Mhm.
your clients about that and see how you can help them with adjustments or with that soft tissue, like you mentioned. But how, like, if someone came to you and was getting adjusted or working with you, however you
Yep.
want to refer to it, how would that affect things like their sleep or their stress levels just by you physically manipulating or
Yeah.
adjusting or
One part
changing?
of it, you mentioned like your neck's bothering you. I'm sure there's times that it's been worse than it is right now. And think of how much mental real estate that takes up for you. When something is bugging, it's like kind of all you're thinking about. Oh, we're gonna get through this meeting, but damn neck. Um, and we're constantly thinking about it. So one, when we remove that pain, obviously very helpful. Um, our body is going to be giving that area a lot of attention. We just kind of want to like get that back so we can be in the moment. The other thing too is if I say have a lot of tension in certain areas, imagine putting on like a wetsuit that's maybe a size too small. It would be difficult just to walk because there's some restrictions in that fabric. And then when you took it off, you'd be like, oh wow, it's actually pretty easy to walk now. So using that as kind of an extreme, when our body's moving better, we're using less energy to move. So we're going to be happier through the day. Things are going to be easier. And then we don't have that stress in our body. Most people, when we talk about sleep, is it hard to fall asleep? Is it hard to stay asleep? And then is it hard to fall asleep because your mind doesn't stop? Or is it hard to find a comfortable position because your body's in pain? So we're treating each of those differently. If it's more mental, of course, we have to come up with some strategies. And if it's more physical, then answer to your question is it's going to help them sleep better because they don't have that pain. When it comes to having their or the more progressive health goals, when they can move better, now they can train with Stefania. Now you can build strength around that. And a lot of times that
Right.
we're going to start with a little bit more of like a rehab type of working with her, where, hey, now we got this better, he can move, start to go through the squat patterns. Now you're full on working out and like going up in weight.
That made a lot of sense when I'm like, never, you said it like it's so simple, but now I'm not going to be like, if I get, my neck under friggin' control, it's like, you're not thinking about it. And the way that you said it was like, well, like, no shit, kind of like, it's not something that's going to be on your mind. But like all day, now that I think about my day, I'm like, I've really been thinking about this
Yeah.
neck all day. And like, it does take up a lot of your energy, a lot of your focus.
And I think
And so that
we take it a
makes a
little
lot of sense.
further for like more significant pain. Say someone has like really bad low back pain. Where now everything that comes up in their life, it's like, oh, my grandkids just invited me to go to Disney. But my first thought is like, oh, could I walk that long? So it really changes our perception of life when we know that we can do those things and we have a confidence, right? Like everyone wants
Yeah.
confidence. Like we want to be confident in how we look, confident in how we feel, but confident in being able to perform in the sense of I can just use my body. That you're not, a lot of my patients, I feel like so privileged you get to go inside of so many people's lives, but you realize like these little things that we take for granted sometimes is somebody's worst thing. They're like, I just wish I could even go out to meet someone, but there's no way I could be standing out at a bar. There's no way I could be walking around. I can't even go on these hikes. I can't do this walking group or whatever. And that becomes very negative. When you can give someone that hope and kind of shine the light a little bit, and we can build habits and get a little better, that's really cool to see. And we love to help people, but it's like it really fills our cup when you are seeing people take in that knowledge. Like, there's nothing better when somebody comes in and like, I watched that video you sent me. And just taking the advice because we're happy to just share and share and share. But when you're giving it back and doing it and then seeing it, now you're just excited like we are because we do those things too. And it's fun when you're like, oh, my runs are getting better. It's getting easier now. I ran track in college and I told it's funny. Like, it is the most rewarding but difficult thing when it comes to fitness, running, because there's so many times no one else is out there. You can stop. You could lie. You can probably gamify that strap. We can put it on the car. It's really about you getting to that point, and there's nothing better than it when all of a sudden that run, it doesn't feel as hard. You're like, I'm just a passenger in my body, and this is pretty cool. But not a lot of people ever get there with running, and it's hard to have people understand what kind of fitness feels like, or that saying, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. You're going to say bullshit unless you've ever felt really healthy.
Can I add
Okay,
one
I
more
have
thing,
one.
Josh? Okay, so just
Go ahead. Yes.
as far as what
Add
you
it
guys
on,
were
baby.
saying about being in pain and it's just occupying space in your mind, not only does it affect you, but it affects everybody else you're dealing with. So maybe you're a boss or you're a manager and you have people who are working under you. Do you think you're going to treat them better if you're in pain and have a headache all day long or this tightness in your muscle? Or are you going to be short with them and give them a little bit of an attitude because you just can't manage anything else going on? It's the same thing happens with family members, your loved ones, whoever you're closest to. It's easier to be a little bit more short with them. So when we can improve our lives and then get ourselves out of pain and function better, it improves so many of your relationships in your life.
If you've ever seen someone walk into a room and everyone's like, oh, what happened? We're all very perceptive to energies. And good or bad. Or someone, you're like, you're glowing. And then we know when it's the negative. When someone comes in, you're like, I know something's wrong. Like, I know they're sad. We can all feel it. And I think that for me, I'm only going to be able to put my hands on so many people in this lifetime and help them and impact them. But I look at every single one of those people, they have a job and a career or something. They have some inherent reason that they're on this earth to make it better too. So if I can make them a better person, that's going to expand the reach.
So I have one more question specific to you, Sam. I think, is there a thing synovial something fluid or something or other in your spine? Is that the right term, the right word? Because, yeah, whatever it's called. But Stefania, last time when we were doing an episode, you were like, you need to ask Sam about that. And I've thought about that a lot. So I want to know something about it goes up and down your spine twice a day or something like that. You got to stand up. What's for people listening, what is it?
Your cerebrospinal fluid goes through your body. Basically, you get like 2 flushes of that in a day. So,
I think I was talking to him about like sedentary lifestyles and a reason even that would put you at a disadvantage or put you into pain and make you feel like you don't have energy to work out or you are in too much pain to work out. And actually even just standing up and getting enough walking breaks can put you in a better...
help kind of create movement through our body. I mean, really we can have almost like a stagnation of energy, so to speak. But when we think about our brain, that cerebrospinal fluid is kind of cleaning out any like damaged particles. So we want to make sure we really get that flush. And that's why it's important when we're sleeping. It's when our body does all of our repair. I always say, think of your body like a car. And when you go to sleep, you're dropping it off at the ultimate one-stop shop mechanic. But if you wake up in the morning, you're like, damn, I was in bed the whole time, but I still feel so exhausted. Well, if you treat your car like crap and it's really messy and dirty on the inside, ultimately you check in with that mechanic. They're like, hey man, by the time we washed the outside and we cleaned out the glove box and we got all that stuff out, like we didn't have time to do an oil change. We didn't really do. I didn't even pop the hood. Like we only did some aesthetics. Where if you run a cleaner lifestyle, every time you drop that off, like hey, they're opening the hood, we're cleaning that engine. You wake up, you're like I'm fully recharged, I'm like, ready to go. And I think similar to the running thing, or maybe like feeling very healthy, a lot of people have never experienced that either. Really, what it feels like to each day wake up, you're like, I'm right back to baseline or better. We live in a society, it's like Monday, Tuesday, like we're limping into Friday. You're like, oh, praise the Lord.
Okay, so that fluid, you get an oil change twice a day. How come it only does it twice a day?
I guess there's a pumping mechanism in our body. So your skull is actually made of 8 bones. The bone on the back, called your occiput, correlates with your sacrum. So if you could look at like slow motion anatomy and you're able to remove all these things, when we're breathing, our brain actually like changes shape very subtly. And that pump on the back is kind of pushing. And same thing, do this with my hands, but it's like your sacrum and the back of your skull are moving to create this pump. But if this part doesn't move, or I'm stuck, like I'm always seated and it's just stuck there, it's like we're not effectively using that pump. So kind of full circle into the chiropractic part, that's why we have to be able to create movement and motion and have good fluidity for these normal processes in the body to happen.
That's interesting. So like right now, my hat is a little tight and I feel like it's cutting off my circulation. Is that bad?
It is gonna happen.
It's
for sure.
Oh no. Okay. There's a new hat too. I keep trying to like make it looser, but truly I'm like, my brain is not.
I just don't want that to
blood
be
ain't flowing.
Takeaway. Like, you get a chiropractor and he said, "Don't wear a tight hat."
Wear a hat safely.
That's restricting your movement. It's like, is it going to be a perceivable difference? Probably not. But is it making a difference? For sure.
Okay. Well, I feel like I'm ready for a chiropractor adjustment ASAP. All right, friends, that is where we are going to pause for today. In this first part of my conversation with Stefania and Sam, we talked about New Year's resolutions, setting realistic goals, Stefania's approach to small group and personal training, and Sam's philosophy around chiropractic care. But we are not done yet. In part 2 of this interview, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the recovery tools that people are really curious about right now, including cold plunges, infrared saunas, and how to actually use these tools in a way that supports your body instead of stressing it out. We're also going to do some rapid fire questions around health and wellness trends, what's worth the hype, what's misunderstood, and what Sam and Stefania hope people leave behind in 2026 as we forge ahead. So if this conversation resonated with you, make sure that you are subscribed, that you rate, you review, and you share this episode with anyone that you think could need it. And definitely make sure you're subscribed so that you do not miss part 2. As always, I'm Josh, and thank you for listening to this episode of Hot Air. Take care of yourselves, be gentle with your goals, and I will see you, well, I was going to say I'll see you next Tuesday, but I'll see you on Friday for part 2.